The board will hear two hearings today. The first will be hearing 8203, Our Lady of Holy Cross Parish, which is an appeal to a denial of a permit and license to operate a rooming house at 8115 Church Road. The second will be hearing 8197, which is Kenyas Market, CO Rami Al-Mutin, to reconsider the revocation of a conditional use permit numbered 120284 to occupy 5477 North Kings Highway as a convenience store and carry-out restaurant with packaged liquor. During the hearings today, your testimony is being recorded. If you come forward to testify, please state your name and your address and be sworn in. As you testify, please direct your comments to the board, not to those in the audience. Members of the audience are asked to remain silent and not to coach the witnesses. During your testimony, members of the board may have questions for you. Following the hearings today, the board will proceed with its regular agenda. Following the conclusion of its regular agenda, the board will deliberate and vote on both hearings. The board will notify the permit holders of its decisions by mail. Hearing numbered 8203 is being conducted pursuant to Chapter 25.32.510, Section 903 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis. The applicant, Our Lady of Holy Cross Parish, is proposing to operate a rooming house with 12 rooms and 15 beds at 8115 Church Road. Item 1, as outlined in Section 25.32.510, Section 903.5 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, it shall be unlawful to operate a hotel, dormitory, rooming house, or boarding house without first obtaining a permit and license and herein set forth. No such applicant shall be approved wherein a church, elementary, or secondary school is located within a 500-foot radius. Item 2, as outlined in Section 25.32.510, Section 903.5 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, an applicant may appeal the denial of the permit if the Board of Public Service, after receipt of the application and the report and recommendation of the building official, find the proposed structure conforms to the requirements of the chapter and the rules and regulations of the Building Inspection Section, Health Division, and Fire Prevention Bureau, it shall cause to be issued a permit to the applicant. The applicant is appealing the denial of their permit before BPS. Their permit was denied because the church is located within 500 feet of 8115 Church Road. BPS has in its possession the following documents, which are being introduced into evidence. Item 1, a certified copy of Chapter 25.32.510 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis. A completed application for a rooming house. Item 2, a memorandum from the zoning inspector dated June 19, 2017, finding the plat and petition of consent for 8115 Church Road to be in due form, but noting the concern of 8115 Church Road being 500 feet from a church. Item 3, a petition of consent showing support of 28 persons who occupy a residence or business within 500 foot of the proposed rooming house. Item 4, a letter from the Director of Health, Melba Moore, dated August 22, 2017, stating that the community sanitation staff inspected the facility at 8115 Church Road and found no evidence of health code violations. Issuance of the permit for a rooming house was recommended. Item 5, a copy of the Certificate of Occupancy and Zoning issued to 8115 Church Road from the Fire Prevention Bureau. Item 6, copies of the public notices for this BPS hearing. Item 7, copies of letters sent from the Secretary of BPS notifying the applicant of this BPS hearing. The board will swear in and hear from the representatives from the city departments, followed by the applicant and those in support of the application. The board will then allow those in opposition, if any, to address the board. The board asks the representative of the Department of Health to please come forward and be sworn in.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you I do.
Would you state your name for the board, please?
Maria Cutrianu.
Can you tell us, did you perform the inspection of the proposed rooming house located at 8115 Church Road?
Yes.
Okay. And did you determine that the proposed rooming house complies with all applicable health and safety laws and regulations as promulgated by the Director of Health?
Yes, currently. They're doing some renovations, but what I saw today, good sanitation.
And is it your recommendation that a license be issued to the applicant to occupy a rooming house at this location?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything further to add?
No.
Okay. Does the board have any questions?
Without too much detail, can you expand a little bit on the renovations being conducted right now?
They didn't feel they were ready for a full inspection, building-wise or health-wise, but they had operable toilet facilities, sinks that were there. They're renovating a kitchen, and I recommended they pursue a food permit once all that's completed.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
The board asks a representative of the Office of the Zoning Administrator, please come forward and be sworn in.
Would you raise your right hand? Tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God.
So help me God. My return as zoning inspector for the city of St. Louis.
Did you review the completed plat and petition neighborhood consent submitted by the applicant for the proposed rooming house located at 8115 Church Road?
Yes, I did.
Did you determine that the neighborhood consent petition complies with the requirements of section chapter 25.32.510, section 903 of the revised code of the city of St. Louis?
Yes, sir.
Is it your recommendation that the license be issued to the applicant for the proposed facility?
Yes, sir. I do agree with that. It just happened that this is the church that's trying to do the project, but I have to deny it based on it being a church.
So just to be clear, the church and the proposed rooming house are one in itself, and it is not necessarily a conflict by the petition radius as noted.
Correct.
Okay.
It
Do you
just
have
has to be noted.
anything else you would like to add for the board?
I just think that it would be good for them to have the rooming house where it is over in that particular area.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much. The board asks the applicant to please come forward and be sworn in.
Yes.
Would you raise your right hand, please? The whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
You state your name for the board, please.
Father Vince Nyman, 8115 Church Road, 63147.
Good afternoon, Father.
Good afternoon.
Just to be clear again with you, have you been working with the church and that is located within the 500 foot of the rooming house, or are you one and the same? Can you explain that?
Yes, President and board members. I've been at the church for about 5 years, and our parish, usually I know it doesn't seem that a church usually has such a service to the community. Ours would be one of the very first. We have, and there's, I'm sure, reasons for that. It's not that the church is shying away from that service, but it's just not something that it's used to. So the need of today with homeless people, as you probably know, is vastly increasing. And especially with women ages 55 and over. So with the increased need and the fact that our church is in one of these areas, just makes perfect sense that we would allow one of our buildings to provide for this service in a community. My particular church does a lot to serve this area. We have an outreach 3 weeks out of the month, each month, 3 Tuesdays, where we have a flood of people that come for a care package and other amenities, and who come for cash for their electrical bills and needs, we're one of the few churches that will actually provide for those services in St. Louis urban or even in the county. But we probably, the amount of that would probably be $30,000 easy that we get for that. We have also had other programs, helping, say, a family that may have, lived there a couple years ago. We have taken a lot of hits, but we felt like those needs, in fact, were worth it because we're helping people. Now, the idea here is that we're going to provide healing for these women, okay? And it's not so much rocket science. We're going to do this by connecting people, building a community. So we've already initiated a community organization. Though we started it, we made it so that it's not affiliated with the church. So we've connected ourselves. The group is called ROBA, and they're connected with SLACO. And we've been trying that for about a year, and it continues to draw interest in the community. We have to build the people. We have to connect the people, and that's how healing will happen. So it's our parish mission statement to integrate with all peoples. We don't discriminate, religion, creed, color, anything. Each person is special, and so we believe that this is a perfect kind of a place to have such an operation because of that. Our people in the community are going to just be a companion of accompaniment for the women. We're going to just maybe eat with them, if they choose, and it'll hopefully be a slow healing process to get them on their feet. The needs that the group Assisi House is going to provide are exceptional. They have other facilities. I think this is their fourth one for as a transitional home for men or women. And their vision is just like ours. Connect with people and give them the space to heal and get back on their feet. I think that in St. Louis in general, we have to do more to restore lives. We just can't afford anymore to just kind of disregard them just because some traumatic thing has happened. So this Assisi House shares this vision, and it's really doing everything they can for them. They offer them health insurance, dental insurance, and try to help them find a job, and other small things like that. Eating with them, sitting down, eating, connecting with people. We've also connected and reached out to other churches. We try to meet with them once a month so that we all join forces to unite and build the community from the ground up. From the ground up. So what we will do is we invite people to come to our church, but we do not force or impose, and we love them just the same. So any of these women who will, let's say they're Baptist, they say they belong to a non-denominational, we are connected with Empowerment of Grace, have a great relationship with Northside Baptist, and those churches will also help if those women choose to do that. So I just thank you for your attention. I'll be happy, that's like a brief sketch, and I hope happy to answer any question.
So thank you for that detailed description. I'll turn it to the board in just a minute. I do want to ask you one further thing, if that be okay. Have you read and will you be able to comply with all the provisions of Chapter 25.32.510, specifically Section 903 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis?
Sir, I have to, I'm not sure if I've read that or not. Just the number is whatever, but I promise you that I will read that.
Thank you.
No one had mentioned that before to me, but I would read that and any other thing to comply with this great city's ordinances.
Questions from the board?
And on average, Father, how many folks you said? I think you said 3 weeks out of every month. On average, how many of those folks are you assisting on a monthly basis coming to your church now absent the rooming house?
Absent the ring. I would say they come in for an hour. It's a steady flow, so it could be from 50 to 100 people that
Okay.
come a week,
And when,
and constant phone calls. Constant phone calls. This area, of Baden, I'm sorry to cut you off. This area of Baden is one of the most extreme clusters of poverty, and its violent rating is among the highest in the nation.
right, and it would be females only, is what you're saying, if you're fortunate to get a rooming house approved?
Yes, sir. The Assisi House will be responsible for they're the experts. They're the real experts. They've fine-tuned their skills with helping men and women. And they, I'm sure, could answer a lot of that better than I, and then we're very clear with our part of that, okay? So they're going to be doing most of the stuff, but then there's going to be room for us just to connect. Maybe we can have a sisters program, okay? Or maybe there's someone in our parish who wants to take someone out for dinner or something, anything like that. But that would be kind of a side thing, peripheral stuff on the side to just kind of reinforce the work that Assisi House is going to be undertaking.
Thanks. I only have one more question. Thank you for that. Do you have plans in place to where you would have a projected time frame of how long they would stay before they transition to a better quality of life, or how long do you envision these folks staying once they come?
I understand, sir, that they like to begin with about 14 or 15 people. After about 4 months, they knock that down to about 10 people. I don't know too much about the whys and what determines whether you stay or you go. But then after the 10 have been chosen, they could stay there up to 2 years or perhaps even longer if needed. So really, as I understand it, they look at each person individually and help those unique needs. So it's not like they're just all lumped, herded around here and there. They're really going to look at each person and find out what is needed for each person.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board?
While I'm not a voting member, I'm an attorney for the board. We currently have a new ordinance that went into place known as 70459. It is currently being challenged by the Archdiocese and several other housing programs in the city. I just want to make sure that you know that it is currently in effect until it is overturned, if overturned by a court. And it has to do with being openness to all, including making women's reproductive health choices a protected class for housing choices and employment choices in the city. So I just want to make you might want to take a quick read over. It's 70459. I know it's been a slight issue with a lot of religious-based housing in the city that you might want to take a look at.
I definitely will be taking a close look at that, and anything that you want to send my way. I hope the collaboration continues. The communication is at a very high level. And my general way of working is that I invite oversight. Everything that we're doing here in the parish, especially regarding this, is overseen by the Archdiocese and the Archbishop himself. So he is very strongly in favor of this. He knows that we are going to comply with every matter as far as the dignity of the human person. Yes.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there is anyone in support or in favor of the proposed establishment that wishes to testify, please come forward and be sworn in.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but God.
I will and I do.
Your address for the board.
Yes, 1540 North 17th Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63106. I'm Tekka Childress, and I'm founder of the group that is going to be partnering with the parish. I want to clarify it because it's perhaps a little confusing. We are actually operating the shelter. We've raised all the money and we are rehabbing the building, and we're going to operate it. And we've partnered with them because they have such an openness to what we're doing. So I can answer a lot of specific questions about the operation of the facility. And after me, Mike Goki will speak, and he's involved with a lot of the construction. So if you have questions about the building. So first, I just want to begin by saying that St. Louis Winter Outreach is an organization that began 12 years ago. I've spent my life, 39 years, working with people who are homeless. I operated a women's shelter for over 35 years, and now work as an outreach worker to homeless individuals downtown. Our organization started because I tried to help a gentleman 12 years ago who died from the cold. I was unable to help him, tried to get him off the street at night, called an ambulance, wasn't able to get any help. Did many things, and he died that night. And so we decided that we could do more, and we began to go out in the winter to find people at risk of dying from the cold, and we started an outreach program, and we would take people to shelter. Our goal was to get people off the street and into shelter. After years of doing that and getting frustrated at the lack of shelter, we opened 7 or 8 winter shelters that are open on nights when it's 20 or below, and we still operate most of those today. After several years of doing that, we felt that this was just the beginning, that shelter is just the beginning of what people need. What people really need is housing. And so we tried to come up with a way of offering housing to people in a model that would be successful. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we opened our first house. This will be our 4th. We call it a Sissy house. The model is a small house that opens as a shelter in mid-November when winter is coming. To take a small number of people. This house will take 14. And during the course of the winter, we have staff on it. When the guests are there, we have staff who we'll hire and who will be there to operate the shelter. And then at the end of the winter, we identify, and through the course of the winter, we bring a lot of groups in, a lot of different folks. We might have social workers and other churches and groups will be very closely involved with the church. And to try to bring resources to some of the people there. This shelter this year will be operated, it will be for women only. I have experienced a lot of older women. That's what Father was speaking to, a lot of older women who don't have income yet, and yet who have lost the ability to get a job easily in their 50s. It won't be exclusively for that group of people, but we'll have probably many women in that age group who will be in the house. The idea is to figure out during the winter how when people have a safe place to stay, and right now, I mean, I can tell you that just today, I was talking to a woman who's in her 50s. I wasn't talking to her, I was talking to my coworker who was telling me that this person I've worked with in her 50s came to the office today and was desperately trying to find shelter, and there's no shelter. She slept outside in the rain last night. And so she's the kind of woman, she and others are the kind of people that we need to offer shelter to. We've lost numerous shelters for women this year. We lost Shalom House. Karen House is still offering shelter, but to much smaller numbers of people. And we've just had a real reduction of spaces for women. So the idea is over the course of the winter to help women find some way of having some income. Sometimes we develop networking to get people employment, depending on what their circumstances are. And we try to give them the time to, once they are no longer meeting their daily needs of just surviving, to be able to kind of figure out what to do next. So the idea then is at the end of the winter, about 10 people, because everyone has their own room, will stay and pay rent. We feel like we've developed an affordable way for people to be housed. Rent is usually $200 to $250 a month, and we found that it can be self-sustaining. Every year we open a new house for $40,000. At the end of the year, it can be sustaining for about $200 to $250 a month per person staying there. So the idea is then that we would have rehabbed a home that would be nice, and during the course of the winter, we plan to do this thing we call Partners in Housing, where we have different church members and others, not just church people, but other people. By the way, I will say that our group really has a high priority to being fair to people of all groups, LGBTQ and others, and we don't discriminate about anybody in housing. So what we will do then is really try to create a community with the people living there, identify who can really live with other folks, and at the end of the time, then we'll have built a community that have supports that continue after the winter. And then what we'll do then is continue that support ongoingly with that group of people. So the idea is really to create a model of housing. It's not the only model. There's so many different models that are needed. But this is one model that really works for one kind of group of people. And we feel like it's a way to really begin to house some folks again. And this will be our fourth one, and we'd love to do it for years to come. So if you have any questions, that's really kind of what I had to say.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Are you a part of the continuum of care, work with the continuum of care?
St. Louis Winter Outreach works as a companion to the continuum of care. We have, every winter, we pick up our folks, a lot of our folks. We look for people outside, but we also work with the city to pick up people at Biddle House. I go to some of the continuum of care, our team, the team I work with on my job, go to some of the continuum of care shelters. You know, for instance, I talked to the person in the room at the end. I said, if you have people who are timing out of that shelter. So so while we're not a member of the continuum of care, I spoke there last week actually about something at the meeting that was last Thursday. So we're connected, and we could join, but we're a group of hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. So we just work kind of as a complement in a way to the city, because the city works on HUD funding, but we're trying to bring other funding into the issue of helping people who are homeless, trying to bring other resources that are outside of HUD. If we lose that funding, we can operate a shelter like this for every year for $40,000 and move on and continue to work. So that's a compliment to their work.
Other questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
If there's anyone else in support of the proposed establishment that wishes to testify, please come forward and be sworn in.
Hi,
Would you raise your right? Do you swear the whole truth, nothing but you got?
I do.
Would you state your name and address for the
My name is Mike Koki. I live at 4453 Arco 63110. This is my first year working with the CC House. Normally you would see Jerry King in this role, but Mr. King is out of town, so I'm in his stead. My job is to help see us through the permit process. Mr. Sharkey and I have had some delightful conversations about this ordinance, and the whole process has been just one of the most interesting catch-22s in the history of my time working with the city of St. Louis. But that aside, what we're doing is making minor renovations to the building. It's a former convent, so there were a lot of rooms in the building already. We're redoing those rooms, not in the sense of a lot of changes in the structure of the building, but mainly there was one addition that was made in the 50s, and we're redoing one end of that so that we can put in a laundry room and redo the front bedroom. Other than that, what we're really doing is taking wallpaper off the walls, putting down new flooring, putting down repainting the rooms, redoing the kitchen, as was noted earlier by Maria, and replacing the bathroom fixtures. The tubs are staying in, but we're replacing everything else. We haven't decided yet whether we're putting a central HVAC system in for the second floor. The first floor, if it has anything, will have window units in it. So other than that, the building's in very good condition, and Dan Copland, who's the city inspector, has been through, and the other inspectors, and they're ready to sign off as soon as we get things done.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Thanks very much.
Anyone else in support of the proposed establishment? Please come forward and be sworn in. Seeing none. The board asked if there's anyone in opposition to the proposed establishment that wishes to testify. If so, please come forward and be sworn in. Seeing none. The matter concerning hearing number 8203 is now closed and submitted. The board will now move on to hearing number 8197.